I can recall, my story began in a garden in Thebes' Hecatompolis when Diocletian was emperor. I had served, without glory, in the recent Egyptian wars. I was a tribune of a legion quartered in Berenice, facing the Red Sea. That night, I was unable to sleep, for something was struggling within my heart.
I beg of you, what is the name of the river that bathes this city?
It is the Egypt, fed by the rain.
Another is a river I seek, a secret river that cleanses men of death.
Before dawn, the rider died, but he told me that he had heard in his country that if one traveled west where the world ends, he would reach a river whose waters grant immortality. On its far bank, he said, is the city of the Immortals, rich in bastions and amphitheaters and temples. It was thus that I learned about the great city and decided to discover it. In Rome, I conversed with philosophers who felt that to extend man's life is to extend his agony and multiply his deaths. I do not know if I believed in the city of the Immortals. I think that then the task of finding it was sufficient. Flavius, proconsul of Getulia, gave me some soldiers for the undertaking. I also recruited mercenaries who said they knew the roads and were the first to desert. We departed from Arsinoe and entered the burning desert. We crossed the land of the troglodytes who devour serpents and are ignorant of verbal commerce, that of the Garamantes who keep their women in common and feed on lions. We exhausted other deserts and glimpsed other mountains. That these barbarous regions where the earth is mother of monsters could shelter in their interior a famous city seemed inconceivable to all of us. We continued only because it would have been a dishonor to turn back. A few foolhardy men slept with their faces exposed to the moon. They burned with fever. In the corrupted waters of the cisterns, others drank madness and death. The desertions began. Very shortly thereafter, the mutinies. To repress them, I did not hesitate to exercise severity. I proceeded justly, but a loyal centurion warned me that the seditious plotted my death. One cold night, I fled the camp. Amidst the sandstorm and the vast night, I lost them in the desert. I wandered for several days without finding water, or one enormous day multiplied by the sun, my thirst or my fear of thirst. The distance bristled up into pyramids and towers. I awoke to find myself a prisoner. I was burning with thirst. I thought I recognized my captors. They belonged to the bestial breed of the troglodytes who infest the shores of the Arabian Gulf and the caverns of Ethiopia. I was not amazed that they could not speak and devoured serpents. The urgency of my thirst made me restless. I sank my face into the dark waters and drank just as animals water themselves. But there in front of me shone evident the city of the Immortals. I do not know how many days turned about me. I let the sun and the moon gamble with my unfortunate destiny. The troglodytes, infantile in their barbarity, did not aid me to survive or die. My covetousness to see the Immortals, to touch the superhuman city, kept me from sleep. The troglodytes did not sleep either. At first I inferred that they were watching me, later that they had become contaminated by my uneasiness, much as dogs may do.
Oh, Mars! And Jupiter! Oh, great gods!
I prayed aloud, less as a supplication to divine favor than as an intimidation to the tribe with articulate words.
End my search and enter the city of the Immortal!
I crossed several irregular chasms which seemed to me like quarries. Obfuscated by the city's grandeur, I had thought it nearby. As I have said, the city was founded on a plateau, and in vain I fatigued myself looking for an entrance. Finally, I found an opening in the rocks, which led me to a chaos of sordid galleries and labyrinths. The silence was hostile and almost perfect. I do not know how long I walked beneath the ground. I know that I once confused in the same nostalgia the atrocious village of the barbarians and my native city amid the clusters. When I finally emerged to the city, I was held by the extreme age of its fabrication. I felt that it was older than mankind, than the earth. This manifest antiquity seemed to me in keeping with the work of immortal builders. This palace is the fabrication of gods, I thought at the beginning. I explored the uninhabited interiors and corrected myself. The gods who built it have died. I noted its peculiarities and said, the gods who built it were mad. I said this with an incomprehensible reprobation, which was almost remorse, with more intellectual horror than palpable fear. To the impression of enormous antiquity, others were added, that of the interminable, that of the atrocious, that of the complexly senseless. It abounded in dead-end corridors, unattainable windows, portentous doors leading to cellars or pits. I had crossed a labyrinth, but the knitted city of the Immortals filled me with fright and repugnance. This city is so horrible, I thought, that its mere existence and perdurance contaminates the past and the future, and in some ways it even jeopardizes the stars. I do not remember how I returned. I only know that I was not abandoned by fear. When I came out, the troglodyte that had followed me was there. He was tracing clumsy signs in the sand. I thought it was some kind of primitive writing. Then I saw it was absurd to imagine that men who have not attained to the spoken word could attain to writing. However, I presumed that this rudimentary troglodyte looking up at me from the ground had been waiting for me. Me, Marcus, you, Argos. Argos. Then I conceived the plan of teaching him to recognize and repeat perhaps a few words. Argos. Argos. Me, man. You, man. Me, Marcus. The humility and wretchedness of the troglodyte brought to my memory the image of Argos, the moribund old dog in the Odyssey. Marcus. You, Argos. Argos. Argos.
Argos. Argos. Argos. Argos.
Argos? Argos?
Argos. Argos. Ulysses' dog. This dog lying in the manure.
What do you know of the Odyssey?
Very little. It must be 1,100 years since I wrote it.
Everything was elucidated for me that day. The troglodytes were the immortals, the rivulet of dark water, the river sought by the horsemen. As for the city, it was some 9 centuries since the immortals had raised it. With the relics of its ruins, they had erected in the same place the mad city I had traversed, a temple of the irrational gods who govern the world. They had chosen to live in pure speculation. They erected their structure, they forgot it, and went to live in the caves. To be immortal is commonplace. Except for man, all creatures are immortal, for they are ignorant of death. What is divine, terrible, incomprehensible, is to know that one is immortal. Indoctrinated by a practice of centuries, the immortals had attained the perfection of tolerance. They knew that in an infinite period of time, all things happen to all men. Homer composed the Odyssey with infinite circumstances and changes. What is impossible is not to compose it at least once. No one is anyone. One single immortal man is all men. Sometime in the 10th century, we dispersed over the face of the earth, induced by the corollary of the doctrine that there is nothing lacking compensation, so that if there exists a river whose waters grant immortality, in some region there must be one whose waters remove it. The number of rivers is not infinite. An immortal traveler who traverses the world will finally have drunk from all of them. I traveled over new kingdoms and new empires. In the fall of 1066, I fought at Stamford Bridge. In the courtyard of a jail in Samarkand, I played chess. In Bikana, I professed the science of astrology, and also in Bohemia. One day on the Eritrean coast, I found a stream, and prompted by habit, I tasted its waters. I recalled other very ancient mornings when I was a tribune of Rome, and fever and magic consumed the soldiers. When the end draws near, there no longer remain any remembered images. Only words remain.